This week on the 77% Street Debate.
If you survive, you're a man. If you die, you're weak boy.
We don't sweat, we bleed. That we bleed as a family, we bleed as a team, as one unit. We are one block. If my teammate is down, I will be there because we are from the same place. We've gone through the same experiences and we understand each other.
I would advocate for this one, for the mark on my face, rather than being identified by my thumb or by my iris.
I don't believe our ancestors were so special. Yes, they had gifts, they had talents, but so do we. We came from them, no. So why don't we start something new, something healthy, something that does not involve me being in pain just to please someone else, and then just glorifying it.
Hello there, welcome to the 77% Street Debate. My name is Fatu Elika Muloshi. Now, you must have heard the phrase, if the home doesn't teach you, the streets will. But what happens when you're conflicted with both? I'm talking about initiation or rites of passage. And we are here at Cavendish University in Kampala to talk to university students from different African countries as well as experts. And my question to them is simple. What do we have to do to belong? And I just want to start with asking this question. Who among you here has been initiated? Oh, we've got almost all of them. But I'm going to start here with, I like this iconic symbol here, by the way. Tell me, how was the experience like for you?
I'm from Malawi, a very small country in southern part of Africa. We do share a lot of cultural practices and initiation ceremony in this area. And my own experience was somehow traumatizing and also exciting and exhilarating because I was so young at the time, and I was visiting my uncles in one of the districts, and we have we have people in the villages who dress as masquerades. We call them nyao, and they go around the homes, the villages, to collect kids who have not been circumcised or they have not been accustomed to tradition. So they take these kids, take them to the mountains, circumcise them, and teach them how to be men. That was my experience.
I want to hear some more experiences. Any similar experiences to that as well? We're talking about the traditional rite of passage. Pamela, you also raised your hand, and I just want to ask you, the aspect he mentioned, the male circumcision, how is it different from what is done to the females?
When you talk about circumcision to the females, I think they do the FGM, that is the female genital mutilation, that in different societies and in different cultures happens in different ways. So stage one, I think that is where the clitoris is just damaged a little bit, and then other cultures do the stage two, and the worst one is the stage three, where you are cut and then you are sewn closed.
Okay, you are from South Sudan, and you're just talking about female genital mutilation. I want to believe that universally it's been agreed that female genital mutilation cannot exist. Is that still the case? Has something changed?
I don't think it has changed because according to my own experience, I'm still meeting a lot of girls that are going through the same. And being born in Sudan and raised in Sudan, I have a lot of friends that have gone into their families, but their kids are still being, cut. Circumcised and cut. Yes, things like that. It has not stopped. It's still happening.
This is interesting to me. And did I see other hands here? Let me just come to you. Tell me, for your case as well, was it different or similar to what he experienced?
Well, it was. I'm against it because at such a young age, you're not yet old enough to give your consent.
Okay.
You shouldn't have to be able to prove that you belong somewhere. Think of it as a cost. Like Marin was saying, it's traumatic at some point.
So you feel it should not happen in the first place. Okay, may I just ask you again, the one from Malawi, what do you think about the whole phase? Because I believe the whole initiation rite of passage happens in phases, right? What is the beginning and how does it end?
For a young man in the society, you cannot be running around the village or the society uncircumcised. So the first phase is to isolate them from the entire society. This is like putting them in a cocoon, and you want them to, you're transforming them into a butterfly.
A butterfly? What do you mean by that?
You're isolating them from society when they were boys, and by the time they're coming out, they're men. Traditionally, they never sewed. They will just circumcise you and leave you run around until you stop bleeding. You use some banana leaves or things like that until the bleeding stops and you're okay. If you survive, you're a man. If you die, you're weak boy. Especially in my tribe, the Ngoni people, they needed warriors. They needed men to be strong. They needed men to show fearlessness.
So he mentioned an initiation to manhood, being strong. For women in Nigeria, Grace, how does it look like? What are some of the ideals that they impart in the initiation camps, if it ever happens?
Yeah, in Nigeria, the reason for the circumcision of females is to make sure that the ladies don't cheat on their men, they stay faithful.
Oh. This is the overarching theme that they have been taught. Is it the same as well for you about pleasing the men?
Yes, it is. Even for the girls who maybe they are not yet married, they don't want them to go on fornicating. So it's kind of like a way to stop them from having it. And when they get into marriage, they open it for them. Yeah.
Prosper, what's your thought on this?
My thought about this is that as an African boy, I would first of all think that there would be great meaning that our ancestors attached to initiation. And first of all, that is when...
Someone is clicking to that?
And that is because we must recognize that they wouldn't spend their time and effort to do this generation after generation. So this was an open gate to your new life. And without this, really living around the status quo right now, where I would demand or claim to be a man, that wasn't the case. You were made a man, and by community or society. Yet to them, actually, it had to be interdependence. I became a man, not for my own personal gains, but even for the community. To me, I think it's something that I support, and without them, I could say even right now, we're already suffering cultural collisions because of just these simple things or fundamental things that we take to be so light.
Do you agree that this must be the case? Should we really uphold these rites of passage and in all its entirety, all its different aspects? Do you agree to what Prosper just said?
I do not agree with it at all because I believe how some girls are initiated within, I'll say the Baganda women, there's a process called pulling. In that process, it's within the private parts of a woman, and it's just... I believe the labia, the lips, or
the labia minora.
Yes, those ones. Now, as a kid, I was told it's necessary for your wedding night. So now, when I had that, I said, marriage? No, because why am I experiencing this pain now when, without my consent, without my knowledge, I do not know the full picture of what it is I am getting myself into? To a child, this must be very baffling, and why most children don't have the understanding capacity at that age, they simply allow because mommy said so, because Singa said so, or because it's part of the culture, that this is what women have gone through. But now as a kid growing up in modern times, I have these questions in my head now. Why is it necessary? Only to find out it's again to please men.
This is a very interesting point. It is, again, to please men. I will come to that point again. But I just want to ask Grace here, who is a mental health supervisor, especially at the communal level as well. Has the rites of passage really changed over time, or have they been retained in their entirety?
I would say it has changed, but at the same time, it has remained the same, especially those rights that are no longer acceptable, that have human rights attached to them. People have just put them under the blanket, and they still go on, but on a lesser known extent. In terms of changing, I think the change is within the youth, like the young people here, is that they are no longer willing to accept such rights. But in our low-income earning communities, where people are still stuck in the old way of thinking, I believe those traditions actually are still remaining the same.
All right. They mentioned consent. That has come up quite well in this first round. And I just want to come back to you, Prosper, because you believe that we must retain these rights in their entirety. Do you believe that the human being as a self has agency? Because this agency has been protected by international law. Do you believe if such harm is going to be inflicted, the person concerned must be asked first?
I would now call that the collision point, because now you're bringing all together the different cultures that have, never known themselves, and you want them to meet at this one table without them even speaking in their own particular languages.
But wait, do you know that, for example, victims or survivors of female genital mutilation came together to say that this has done more harm than good, and there's scientific research that went on to further solidify that? So these countries might not necessarily just decide on their own, that people came to agree that this is something that we can do now. What do you say to that?
Whereas, well, the international version is that for practices like circumcision, they would try to support it because, let's say, it curbs or mitigates HIV. However, that wasn't the case as to why our ancestors practiced it. No, this was because at such societies or such times, our ancestors they were interacting with nature, you get. Hardships were all around them. So to them, they thought, if there is a better way to train the boy to become the man that will be there for the family, then we think let's take them to such feats of hunting, dangerous animals, to the extent that when they came to represent their family or community, the community is solid, and that is based on them.
But that was based on them when they were interacting with nature and all these animals. She mentioned it's about pleasing women, it's about men being strong. Do you believe if these rites of passage were still to exist, that they should have impacted more in terms of what would be beneficial in our modern day society, rather than just reinforcing this idea of men being strong and women being subservient?
Yes, I think so. Because first and foremost, back then, it's all about men and women, but the world has evolved. It's not important. We have other things that people can do. We have computers. Why don't you just go and learn how to code, sincerely speaking?
I mean, exactly. What are they being taught? Are they being taught mental health now? What are they being taught? Employment, technology? What exactly are they being taught in the initiation camps now?
Well, I kind of want to disagree with her point, because yes, they might not be important for economic growth, but they are important to identify us as a community. We are Africans first and foremost. We still do it because it's part of who we are. We cannot remove what defines who we are just because we want to join a global community. Look at these people, even in the global community, we are going to become inferior. Look at the Americans. They disintegrated the West Indies. Now there's no trace of them. So if we start believing in this concept of relinquishing our cultural beliefs just to get more money or aid from these people, then we are no longer the people who we thought we were.
All right, yes.
Pamela talked about the development, the AI coming up, and he talked about identity. Now, some culture practice the labeling on the faces as a point of identity. It is initiation, okay? But why in this civilization, why would I be identified by my iris? That is biometric. It is nice, it is okay, but it is not private. But when I'm identified by a mark on my face, it is privacy. I would advocate for this one, for the mark on my face, rather than being identified by my thumb or by my iris.
Oh, interesting there. And I just want to come to Doctor very quickly. Doctor, you are a school and education psychologist, but you're also a head of department at one of these universities in the same field. What are some of, the common trends that you see among these young people who've been initiated traditionally, so to say?
I would say the entire process of rites and initiation comes with what I would call the 4 C's, beginning with the chaos that comes with this whole story and narrative. The rest of the community is advocating for change in how people are initiated. But again, the cultural grounding and the social cultural dynamics demand that people should go through such processes. But also look at the confusion that comes from the globalization of the communities that we live in currently. Yes. So this has now resulted into what you would call generational conflict.
Hey, this is a very interesting conversation unfolding. And I just want to ask, because you've been buttressing, that we must maintain some of these traditions. If we must, isn't it safe to say we maintain aspects that promote just being human and do away with the ones that promote harm? Okay. Let me go in the back here. Yes.
Yes, I think we need to bridge the gap. It's okay, yes, culture is there. But if my daughter goes through FGM, she didn't give her consent. Let her grow up and decide, do I want to go through it? It is not... we should not impose it on them. Let them choose. Let us allow people to have control over their bodies.
No imposition on people and their bodies, yes.
I strongly believe the reason as to why these practices are done to children is because they cannot take their consent. Because I'd like to ask the gentleman there, if it was up to you, would you allow for your face to be cut in this era just because... No, I strongly disagree with that.
You said you would still agree for your face to be cut.
Yes, I would. I'm here to support that culture should stand. Okay. Culture should be should be monitored very well and should be embraced. For every society that believes culture is the way to go, should go on.
All right, just a quick one. We've talked about the traditional aspect, initiation, rites of passage. Somebody mentioned it happens even in sports and the broader societal level. Let's talk about what happens in university. Can any of you share your experience? Were you initiated in some way, Grace?
Okay. Universities in Nigeria, when you're about to be a year one student, you have to pass through initiation where early in the morning, the whole school, maybe in the hostel, they will come with buckets of water, they will pour you. So in this process, some will just throw the bucket and it might injure your face or give you marks, but they will pour the water, some will slump, some will just pass out.
But why do they do that?
Because they want to officially welcome you to the campus.
Ah, so they want to officially welcome you. Yes, let me go back to you there.
Yes, she has talked about it. It's more of creating the system of unity, that you now belong to something. Yes, we have come from different places, different communities, and we're now in a certain place where we have to now create a family, where you know that I can lean on this person because I went through the same experience with them. In sports, it's the same thing. I, for one, went through it in rugby. Where
What did you go through?
Well, ours was more of a bit of streaking and a bit of pain, where you had to go through the pain. Yes, in rugby we say we don't...
And you like it?
Yes, at first I was afraid, but then the more you went through it and the more you understood the concept of you don't sweat, we bleed. That we bleed as a family, we bleed as a team, as one unit, we're one block. If my teammate is down, I will be there because we're from the same place, we've gone through the same experiences and we understand each other.
Do you agree to that?
I do agree with that, but my example won't come in the context of university, more of in high school. I went to a military high school when I was younger. So
okay.
In a military high school, things were more brutal back then in terms of initiations, because the ones who are in the final years, they had this ceremony where they hit you below to where the monkey has a tail on. So they took brooms, sticks, any weapon they could find and hit you on that area, on your hip bone, and hit you, saying that we finally cut the tail of a monkey because you're no longer a monkey. You are a monkey, we were looking after you. Now we've cut off that monkey. Now you have officially become a second-year student. You no longer need protection.
At that moment, was it okay for you?
At that moment, it wasn't okay, because there was this perception that was given that you will also do the same once you are in your final years to the younger ones. So,
but now when you think about it, now how does it make you feel?
Right now, it makes me feel I'm part of a group of people that went through a hurtful experience, but I'm grateful for that experience because it also shaped me to who I am today. So I am grateful at this moment. Then I wasn't, but now I am.
Wow. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Did you at any point experience initiation or rite of passage in university? Was it healthy? Was it unhealthy? Yes, I see a hand here.
So at universities, most of the times it's more of friend groups. Of course, you have to adapt to it in order for you to fit in.
So that's peer pressure?
Yeah, peer pressure, but kind of initiation, because if you don't feel out of place. And most of the time, some people are forced. Yes, like let me say drugs. Some people are forced, like you have to do it to be part of us.
Let me just come to you, the experts here. Dr. Richard, for example, you deal with these students on a daily basis at the university level. What are some of the factors that you think pressures them into following some of these vices?
Identity is one of them. There is always that mismatch between the earlier beliefs of the communities where they're coming from, but also where they are going. They are confused, they are torn apart. And as a matter of fact, every community, be it in school, in homes, in cultures, initiation and passage of rite is a norm. Yep.
I would just come to you here, Grace, because this idea of you must suffer to belong, what does it do to the body and the mind? You deal with these young people, in different kinds of settings.
Well, it can affect the mind in two ways. There are those that are resilient and survive. Then there are those that try to fit in but fail. Then comes in mental health issues like depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, a feeling of alienation. Some reach the point of suicide because they feel like where they are from, what they've been doing, they don't fit there anymore because now they've been initiated into a new way of life. So, and then that's where we come in, because you find that some are struggling to fit in, some have tried to fit in, but they feel like they don't belong. And then for those that actually refuse and say, you know what, I am not taking this new way of life, I'm just going to live with whatever it is that I've grown up with, you find that they can't fit in their own society. So either way, it's kind of like a lose-lose situation. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a very interesting point. Prosper, let me bring it back to you here, because at the university level, which you are in, of course, things happen. Have you also experienced some of those things? And if there's anything that you would change in the way initiation happens?
I think every freshers board that we hold is an initiation in some way. You'll find that there is that guy that has never gone for parties, but because they've had freshers board, they won't want to miss that. And it is an initiation. You get to know that, oh, now this is university, it's another level. And then something to do with the consent, which is the main point of contention around, is that whereas it is really crucial because we are now educated and it's no human rights that has come to be with us now, in that time, a child belonged to the parents. They decided for you. As the moment you are born, you belonged to them. Yeah. So the point of consent only came later on because that wouldn't stand before them.
But was that a good thing or a bad thing to do?
No, to them, you belong to the society, so it wasn't your personal decision to make. However, still the belief is, if it is to evolve, there are some things that we can't do away with, that when everything is lost, we can't lose these two or these three.
What are those?
One of them is circumcision. It is to be with us.
The male or the female circumcision?
For now, I would highly say that with a male.
All right, so he said male circumcision must stay. If it must happen, why can it not be done at the medical level, which is proven to be safer, for example?
I mean, truly, that is where the world is headed right now. Most of it is medical. Whether it's religious, whether it's culture, it's mostly medical. But I believe that there's a clear difference between, like he said, initiation rites of passage, welcoming you, and genuine harm. It's very clear if you think about it logically. Okay. So we can keep things like the freshers' ball. It does not make sense to cut off a female's genital parts.
So then I ask, these rites of passage, can they coexist with human rights? He does not want to say, okay, you said yes, I would like to hear your opinion.
They can coexist. When we say that they can't coexist, I personally, I would die. Because I would not have a society I belong to, that's one. Why would I mind about existing without a culture?
So if they must exist, what's got to give?
Nothing.
What do you say to that? I saw you raising your hand. What do you say to that?
Yes, I do agree with him. Yeah. It's going to be very hard for culture to coexist with human rights because culture is selective when it comes to human rights.
But human rights is saying that you cannot just inflict pain, bodily harm, especially if it affects the social and emotional well-being of the person's development. And you still feel, for you, it's okay that you are inflicted with such pain, this excruciating pain?
Yes, because even medically, there are certain medical procedures that have to be done when you're awake and are very painful. So if that can be done medically, why can't it be done culturally?
Okay, so I mean, you were really wanted to say something to that. Tell me.
I have a lot to say, not enough time, but I have a question for the conservatives who keep saying, yes, our culture is very beautiful, it is diverse, and it is very enriching to all of us, even young people. It's very inspiring, but where do you draw the line between culture and toxicity? Why do you keep dragging along all this generational pain that you're going to continue pushing onto these new upcoming generations now, right? How are we supposed to page the way forward for them? We're asking for a solution right now. Yes. I believe the change starts with us. Because I don't believe our ancestors were so special. Yes, they had gifts, they had talents, but so do we. We came from them, no. So why don't we start something new, something healthy, something that does not involve me being in pain just to please someone else and then call it, and then just glorifying it. Because I suffered so much, oh my God, this, but now at least I have one cup of tea. No. This is where the white man
Thank you so much, Pamela. I want to end with you. What's your take on the whole conversation?
On the whole conversation, first and foremost, I want to make something very clear to a few of the members who are on this panel now, is that our cultures are beautiful. But then I want us to ask ourselves one question. Why are we emphasizing on the fact that certain factors or certain parts of our cultures should be done away with? We have dancing, it's part of our cultures. We have clothing, it's part of our cultures. We have foods, these are part of our cultures, and they are beautiful parts of our cultures. But there's one thing that we need to understand. The fact that everything there are two sides to a coin. There are good parts of our cultures, and there are also bad parts of our cultures.
And you agree that the good parts must be maintained. And when you say the bad parts here, based on what we've just mentioned, what would you summarize that to be going forward?
For me, I think we should do away with them, sincerely speaking. Like genital mutilation. If you are going to circumcise someone but it's not for medical reasons, I think you should just do away with it. If you are going to be cutting someone and you're not sure whether they're going to bleed to death after that or not, just do away with it. Cultures are beautiful, but if they are harmful, I think we should do away with them. Let's maintain the good parts, sincerely speaking.
I know you want to say something, but we now have to bring it to a close. I think that was a very interesting conversation. For sure, the experiences in Africa definitely are different, and I think they should be. But one thing that is for sure, and that I'm taking away, is that safety, freedom of choice, and dignity, that is something that we all want and want to enjoy, for sure. And this was all we had time for. My name is Fatu Elika Muloshi. Thank you so much for watching.